Calling the case of the People's State of Michigan versus Jatori Boxley. This is file 20-1288ST and speeding ticket 20X 3807109SI. Would the lawyers please identify themselves for the record?
Your Honor, J.D. Brooks, Midland County Prosecutor, appearing for the people.
Stephen Halsey on behalf of Mr. Boxley for the limited purpose of his arraignment.
All right, Mr. Boxley, when Mr. Halsey is appointed to represent you just today, his job is to kind of explain the process to you and to give you some ideas as to what you can anticipate and expect. Mr. Halsey, have you had an opportunity to meet with Mr. Boxley, or should we put you in a breakout room so you have a chance to chat with him there?
Yeah, I have not had a chance to meet with any of the defendants today. If Mr. Boxley thinks that would be helpful, I'd be certainly willing to meet him in a breakout room.
Mr. Boxley, would you like to meet with Mr. Halsey so he can explain the process to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. When we send you an invitation, you'll have to just hit join. And then when you see just Mr. Halsey and the two of you, that means you're in a private, secure setting. It's all right to talk privately. If you see more than just Mr. Halsey, you're not in a secured setting. So your questions will be public for everyone to see.
Judge, if I could, it may help with the discussions. In my review of this, I had wondered about the related speeding violation. And quite frankly, our position was going to be, we don't see where the defendant has any criminal history. And so our position was going to be, if he resolved the speeding ticket or paid that violation, and he has his license clear, that we would be willing to dismiss the criminal charge. Not sure what the status of either of those are.
All right, thank you, Mr. Brooks. The status looks to be as if he has not resolved that yet, but perhaps he might be willing to do that, knowing that that was the offer. So, Mr. Boxley, I'll have you talk with Mr. Halsey, and then what we'll do, Mr. Brooks, if he's able to secure that offer, we probably could take a payment if he's got that money. So, Mr. Halsey, just to let you know, Mr. Boxley looks like he has been defaulted, and the amount of money is $272 on the speeding ticket.
Okay, thank you. And is that the
He's suspended on Flint?
assumption here? Is that is the reason for his suspension and the hold on his license?
It looks like he's also suspended out of Flint, Michigan, but I don't know when that took place. We are able to just see with the new, I would say new and improved, but I don't believe that to be true. With the new Secretary of State format, we can see that his status is suspended, but it's tricky or trickier to figure out when that may have taken place. So he is suspended here because of missing a couple of court dates. And so he has that $45 fee, which we might be able to take care of, especially if the offer still stands. But it does show at the top he is suspended out of Flint. I don't know the reason why for that. So we'll let you talk with your client, and then we'll address one of the maybe the city case quickly while you're out.
Okay, thank you. And one last question: is the $45 reinstatement fee part of the $272?
It is not. But if he paid the $272 and then Mr. Brooks was still leaving the offer open, I'm checking to see his criminal history, then if the case were dismissed, I think the $45 then would go away. So he may want to make a quick $272 payment to take advantage of the offer. I'm checking his criminal history from what we can see in the judicial data warehouse to see if there's anything there. So
our records indicated at the time that this incident took place in October of last year, he had 2 FCJ suspensions on his license at that point.
That looks to me to be correct, Mr. Brooks. It would look, if this took place in October of last year, he had an Ottawa County speeding and a Flint traffic violation. That was on June 25th, 2021. So that just came up. So you may want to chat with your client, Mr. Alcil, regarding those, and we'll adjourn temporarily on this case. All right, Mr. Boxley, we just wanted to give your attorney as much information as possible so that he can know how to advise you.
Okay.
Thank you. Teresa, if you could open the breakout room for them.
I will, Your Honor.
I do not hear people coming in, like, at all. I looked up and there's more people. And I'm hoping that, let me take a look. Is Vanta Brookins one of the people that came in? Okay, we'll call your case in a minute. We'll have you come to the front. The other people were here first, so we'll take care of those cases. Ms. Cintron, if you wouldn't mind coming up to one of these 4 chairs, I'll call your case. It's the City of Midland versus Lillian Cintron, file 20-0641OT. You wouldn't have a seat. Okay. The city attorney, please identify himself for the record.
James Branson, behalf City of Midland.
All right, ma'am, if you would state your name for the record.
Lillian Cintron.
All right, Teresa, can you hear Ms. Cintron okay?
Yes, I can.
We would have an attorney be able to meet with you too, but I think we needed to have, you did not appear at a pretrial. Why didn't you make the pretrial?
It was just so far out, just being honest, and
It was by Zoom. So what happens is we let people be
Right.
at their own house, but
from
if
the
they don't
last time
show,
that I was in court,
right, then we make
and
you
it
come
kind
here.
of it just slipped my mind. My phone would have had a reminder on it, but my phone I don't have my phone anymore.
Okay,
So
well,
it's just been a lot going on. It was a total accident that I slipped up when I got the letter in the mail. I immediately called about
okay. You may
it.
want to go to a paper calendar.
All right.
Okay, can we check to see the status of Ms. Cintron's license? Mr. Branson, it shows Ms. Cintron has a valid license right now.
Your Honor, we were going to make the offer way back in 2020 that if she had her valid license, we would offer allowing. We will still do that. I understand that there is a bench warrant that I think the court will address today. This is a very old file, but we would offer an allowing, Your Honor.
All right. Do you understand what that offer means, or would you like me to explain it to you?
If you can explain it, please.
Okay, it's against the law for you to drive without a license.
Right.
You have somebody that brought you up here today.
Mhm.
Who is that?
Just a friend.
A
Ronald.
friend? What? Just give me his first name.
Ronald.
Ronald. All right. Let's say that when your license was suspended, and you went to Ronald's house and you said, "Hey, I'd like to go get some ice cream at the store. Let me borrow your car." And he knows your license is suspended. And he says no, but you keep bugging him. Finally, he's like, "Fine, here are the keys." You drive, and guess what? You got pulled over. You're in trouble for driving while license suspended, and Ronald's in trouble for letting you. But the difference between the two cases is yours, if you're convicted, plead guilty, or found guilty of a trial, Secretary of State takes your driver's license again. For Ronald, though it's still criminal, he does not get his driver's license taken away. He just gets punished by the court, which is usually fines and costs. Unless you have a lot of these, then you'd be looking at jail. So what the prosecutor, the city attorney in this case, is saying, since you have your driver's license back, he will let you plead to that reduced charge to pretend like you let somebody else drive when their license was suspended, so you won't lose your license again. Still is a criminal conviction, still has a maximum penalty of up to 93 days in jail, still a maximum penalty of up to $500 in fines. That doesn't mean that's what you'll get. That means that's the most that you could get. Most of the time, people are just have this as a crime. I don't put people in jail. I put them fines and costs. If you've got a lot of these, I might put you in jail because you're not changing your behavior. So the city attorney now knows that your license is back. You still, he thinks, were driving when your license was suspended. And so he's going to let you plead to the reduced charge.
A car, so I wasn't driving.
You weren't driving on that day?
On the day that I got pulled over initially?
Yes.
Oh, I
Right.
thought you were talking about in the meantime.
No. So
Oh.
what he's saying is, since you have your driver's license back, he would let you plead to the reduced charge if you want to do that. Do you understand? So here's your options.
Okay.
You can accept the lower one, which will not lose your driver's license again. You're still going to have fines and costs, and you're guilty of a new crime. Or you can have a trial of you driving while your license is suspended. And if you have a trial, the proof will be this. The police officer will get up, say that he pulled a car over. He's going to say, I'm guessing, that you were the driver and that he checked your records and your driver's license was suspended. And then the jury can make the decision. If they decide you were driving and your license was suspended, then not only would you get the fines and costs that I would give you, but you lose your driver's license again from the Secretary of State. So,
Okay, but at the time when I was pulled over, my license was suspended without my knowledge,
so
which is
there's,
also
that's,
should have been on record. So
well,
why would I have
there's,
to, why would an option be for me to plead to another charge?
right. So there's a difference between two English terms. One is agree and the other one is understand, and they're not the same. So I'm going to try to get you to understand, and it's okay if you disagree. Okay?
Okay,
So, Secretary of State, I think in the state of Michigan, we have like 10 million people. And let's say half of them are driving age. So there's 5 million people out there driving. And so all they have to do is send notice to the last place that you lived. And sometimes people don't always change their driver's license or tell the Secretary of State they moved. So the law says you have what's called constructive notice. You should have known. So if the Secretary of State sent notice to your last house, and you probably never saw it, but it went to your last house, that's all they have to prove. So if you happen to move places and the place went to your mom's house or went to some other house and you never got it, the law will tell me and I will tell the jury that you could be, they can presume you knew this because it's your job to tell the Secretary of State that you moved.
right.
That happens a lot.
So my last place of residence was Florida, and
And
I
if they
was
sent
just,
it
at
there,
that time, I was just now getting back.
right. So what would happen is that there's an instruction for me to tell the jury is that the Secretary of State doesn't have to try to track anybody down. If they have their paperwork saying they sent it to the last address that they had, then that's good enough. So that's the reason why. So now I'm just asking if you understand how it could happen.
Okay, so I understand how it could happen. So I'm just want to ask, me pleading to a new, what then what after that?
Then I would sentence you. If you didn't crash anybody, it would be fines and costs and the case is done. If you decide not to, which is fine, and you want to take it to trial, then we would set a different day and you'd have to come back for a trial.
So for me to get it done and over with today,
You would have to enter the plea.
okay, so I just want to do that.
All right. Mr. Halseal, you were out talking with Mr. Boxley at the time. Mr. Branson had found out information that Miss Cintron's license is restored. She has a valid driver's license. He made an offer to let her plead to the allowing another driver to drive when their license was suspended. Miss Cintron asked a couple of questions because she had moved to Florida in the interim, and I had explained to her the constructive notice provision that would be at the trial. And so she wanted to know the options. I told her the only way that she could get in the case today is if she pled to the reduced charge, but she doesn't have to. But because jail's not an option, I wouldn't appoint an attorney for you, so you'd have to do the trial yourself. So, Mr. Halseal, knowing all those factors, do you have any advice for Ms. Cintron?
Given those facts, I appreciate that, Your Honor, and I would recommend to Ms. Cintron, and it is 100% her choice on how she decides to proceed, but I would recommend that she accept the city attorney's offer in this matter.
Okay. Ma'am, do you plan on following Mr. Halseal's advice and entering the plea?
Yes.
Okay, you're gonna have to stand up, raise your right hand, and we'll have you sworn in, okay?
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
Yes.
Okay, could you hear that okay, Teresa?
I could, Your Honor.
Because, I'm sorry, did you say you could or could not?
Yes, I could.
I have, one of my staff is in another room, and so she's recording and has to be able to hear that. So that microphone is right in front of you in the red. That's, you kind of have to make sure that you talk loud enough for there. All right, ma'am, has there been any promises? I told you that I would do fines and costs. I do fines and costs if you're found guilty at the trial. If you're not found guilty at the trial, the case is dismissed. So there's no punishment if you take it to trial. The risk is you lose your driver's license again. But has anyone made any promises to you other than what we've talked about on the record or threatened you in any way to get you to plead to this when you really don't want to?
No, nobody has made any promises. I'm just worried about the fines and costs. It just took
All right,
me
but have there been any
always trying
threats?
to get my license because of fines and costs.
Okay, have there been any threats made to you?
No,
Are you right now under the influence of any medicine, drugs, or alcohol that's confusing you?
no.
If you enter this plea, thank you for that. If you enter this plea, you'll be waiving the right to a trial. You could have had a trial on the higher charge, whether by jury or by judge, if you and the city attorney agreed to that, but there'll be no trial at all. Do you understand that?
Mhm.
I'm sorry?
Yes, I understand.
Okay. If you enter this plea, you'll be waiving the right to hire your own lawyer or represent yourself. Mr. Houseel is stepping in today just to give you some advice, and you'll be utilizing his advice. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
If you enter this plea, you'll be waiving the right to remain silent, not have your silence used against you, the right to be presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Do you understand these?
Yeah.
And you'll be waiving the right to confront your accusers, to call witnesses, testify. Do you understand that?
Mhm.
I'm sorry?
Yes. Sorry.
I can see what you're shaking
Okay.
your head, or you just have to have a
I know.
verbal
I'm just like,
response. All right.
okay. Yes, I understand.
Okay. Knowing your rights and waiving them are different. I think you understand your rights. In order for me to take the plea, you would have to waive these rights. Do you waive these rights?
Yes.
Okay. The law lets me take a factual basis based upon what you did. And if there's an offer to a lower charge, then we can enter it in as the lower charge. We talked about the allowing. I don't think you allowed Ronald or anybody else who didn't have a driver's license to drive. I think you drove and your license was suspended. So I'm going to ask you about that. Okay. How do you plead to the reduced charge of allowing another person to drive while their license was suspended? Do you plead guilty, not guilty, or stand mute? This is to the lower charge.
I'm gonna stand mute.
Okay, so stand mute says that you would like to reject it and have a jury trial or bench trial on the original charge.
But I thought you just said those are my three options. I thought I had already waived that part,
Yes, well,
the trial part.
you've waived that right, but now I'm trying to get you to have the decision on the reduced charge. You're either guilty of it or you're not guilty. There's two ways to say not guilty. You can say not guilty, or you can say stand mute. If you want to accept the offer, and again, it's up to you. If you wish to accept the offer, you have to admit guilt to the lower charge.
Okay.
How do you wish to plead
So
to
I'm admitting guilt.
Yep, hang on just a second.
Okay.
How do you plead to the reduced charge of allowing another person to drive while license suspended? Do you plead guilty, not guilty, or stand mute? Remember, not guilty and stand mute both mean the same thing. So you're either guilty or you're not guilty.
Okay. Guilty.
All right. On June 3rd of last year, were you driving in Midland County in the city of Midland on M20, like right here near Curry Parkway?
Yes.
On that day, was the status of your license suspended?
When I was pulled over, it was told to me that it was suspended.
Okay. Mr. Branson, have I complied with the court rule and had an adequate factual basis?
Yes, Your Honor, you have.
All right. Is there any restitution I need to be concerned about in this case?
There is no restitution, Your Honor.
All right. I find the plea's been made knowingly, understandingly, voluntarily, and accurately. Will enter records of the court as allowing another person to drive while license suspended. The original charge of driving while license suspended will be dismissed. All right. Because you lost your original money and you had to pay $250 in bond money because you didn't show up to court, I'm going to sentence you this way. You will pay $75 crime rights fee, a $50 state assessment fee, $75 in fines, $50 in court costs. That adds up to $250. You happen to have $250 on bond. So that means you don't have to do anything if we're allowed to use the bond money to pay against your fines and costs. May we use the bond money to pay the fines and costs?
Yeah.
Okay. You have 21 days if you want to appeal the sentence, or 14 days to request a court-appointed attorney, or you and Ronald can go ahead and head home.
So that's it?
Yes, ma'am.
I'll never have to come back to court and
No,
my
ma'am.
license is still good.
You're all good. It's all done. You don't
Thank God.
you,
Okay.
you don't have to leave. You can watch the other ones, but you can't stay in that chair.
Okay. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.
All right, thank you. Mr. Houseel, you had a chance to talk with Mr. Boxley.
Yes, we have had a chance to discuss this.
Does Mr. Boxley have the means to be able to pay the ticket to be able to accept the offer?
Mr. Boxley would need until close of business tomorrow. So say 4 PM on Friday, and he can pay the $272 in full.
Let me check with Mr. Brooks if the offer will still be open. We would probably have to set it out more than 1 week because I'm gone next week. Mr. Brooks, if Mr. Boxley pays off the ticket, the $272 in the ticket, would the offer still be available, let's say a week from sometime the last week of July, first week of August?
Yes, Judge, it would. part of our concern and the offer was that he get his license reinstated as well.
Got
which
it.
will
I didn't
probably
ask
take
that.
some time to do
I
that.
didn't ask that question. Mr. Boxley's status, is it still, is he suspended for us or is he suspended for? Okay. So, Mr. Boxley, you got a little homework to do. Prosecutor's not going to dismiss the driving license suspended charge unless not only do you pay the $272, but you get that you get the Flint problem taken care of. So we're going to give you a couple weeks to redo this. You're gonna have to figure that part out. So, Teresa, can we get a date about 2 weeks out for Mr. Boxley?
Our next available is going to be August 3rd at 8:15.
August 3rd at 8:15. Now, Mr. Boxley, you would be doing yourself a favor by showing up. You have a few times where you did not show up, and all you got to do is be here, because otherwise, if you don't show up, then I'm going to have you come in person. There's some other people that had to come here in person today because they didn't show up.
Okay.
Just for the record, if I may, and Mr. Boxley states that he has paid the monies owed to Flint some time ago, and he has a receipt for that. So while he works through that, I would like that to be on the record that he has not been ignoring that issue, but believes it's taken care of, and he has a receipt to prove the payments.
All right. What I'm going to do is waive our $45 fee, because we also probably would have had his license suspended because he didn't appear in court one time. And so I'm going to lift the $45 fee. He needs to contact the Secretary of State, and he needs to contact Flint and get all of his ducks in a row by August 3rd at 8:15 in the morning.
Okay.
Okay. You may also want to check Mount Morris, Mr. Boxley.
That's a suspended too?
Well, that might be for a ticket. Yeah. If you don't, what happens is that when you don't pay these things right away, the computers then send stuff to the Secretary of State, and then they send these flares up, and then it ends up taking your license. So make sure you take care of them. You got a little bit of homework to do between now and August 3rd. Okay.
Okay. So the next court date is August 3rd at 8:15 in the morning?
Yes, sir. Same number that you called in today.
Okay. One more question. Can I call, can I pay whenever before August 3rd?
Yes. Yes. We thought you were going to pay by tomorrow, 4:00 in the afternoon is what Mr. Houseel said, but needs to be paid. Everything needs to be cleared up by August 3rd. Mr. Brooks is kind enough to leave the offer open, but you've got to do your part.
Okay. I will right now as soon as I hang up to see what's going on.
All right. We'll be adjourned on this case at this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
We call the bench warrants. Yep.
Just for my clarification,
We're waiving the $45 suspension fee so that he can try to get his license back. The goal is for you to have a valid license, sir. You're going to have to do we've done our part. You got to do yours.
Okay. I will.
All right. Thank you. We'll be adjourned.
Okay.
Mr. Jackson, would you come on up, please? Calling in case of the People, State of Michigan versus Eddie Jackson, file 21-0465 ST. Counsel, identify yourself for the record.
Your Honor, J.D. Brooks, appearing for the people.
Stephen Houseel on behalf of Mr. Jackson for the limited purpose of his arraignment.
All right. It looks as if Mr. Houseel, that the defendant had failed to appear for his arraignment on May the 25th. There's no real way for me to put the two of you in a private breakout room. So is it all right if I just, I will ask you to enter the plea, but is it all right if I read the charge to your client?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Good afternoon, Mr. Jackson. You have a real soft voice. It's really deep, and it's got a great sound to it, but I need to be able to hear it. All right. Can you tell Mr. Jackson, you have been charged by the prosecutor's office with the crime of driving while license suspended and a second offense notice. What that allegation states is that on January 22nd of this year, it is alleged that you were driving on East Freeland Road, a highway in the state of Michigan, when your license was suspended, and that you were convicted at least one other time. It looks like 3 or 4. Once on November 1st of 2010 in Saginaw County, once March 31st, 2011 in Saginaw, and once on April 19th, 2018 in Saginaw, meaning it's at least the second offense. There's no higher charge. So whether you have 2 or 102, it's always going to be called second offense. All right. If you're convicted of the crime as charged, It's a misdemeanor. It's punishable by up to a year in jail and or $1,000 in fines plus court costs. And depending on your driving record, your vehicle may have to be immobilized, the vehicle you were driving. So all I'm asking right now, not whether you agree with it, not whether you're admitting, I just want to make sure you understood what I just read. Is that a yes, sir?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. All right, Mr. Brooks, I don't know if there's an offer in this case. Let me just check the status of his license.
I'm showing him suspended, however, I believe that's me. Or please, can you just-
Yeah, because I was in the process of getting my license at the time.
And that's why he's suspended. All right, so Mr. Brooks, it looks like the reason he's suspended right now is because we had it suspended for not appearing in court. Otherwise, he would have a valid driver's license.
Everything else has been cleared?
That's what it looks like.
We were going to either offer an attempt or reduction to first offense, but that, of course, would then implicate a new suspension on his license. So I think that being the case, and assuming that he can satisfactorily resolve the issue of his failing to appear in May with the court, we would offer an allowing a suspended person to drive in this case.
All right. Mr. Halseal, knowing those pieces of information, do you have any advice for your client regarding the offer?
I advise Mr. Jackson to accept that offer, but that decision is up to him.
Oh, yeah, I said.
All right. So, Mr. Jackson, the one question, though, is that why didn't you appear? Because we would let you appear by Zoom in May. You
Yeah, I
didn't even
was
come.
working at the time, and the mail, I don't get the mail all the time. Because I don't, where my mail comes to, I don't be at the house all the time. It's my grandmother. I don't be there all the time.
So you get the mail at your grandma's and you don't always get the mail.
Yeah, I don't always go to the house to check the mail.
I don't mind people making mistakes, but I'd like them to learn from it. What did you learn sitting in court here today? And
oh, because I had got pulled over in Saginaw. I didn't know my license was suspended. All off of it.
Okay. But what lesson did you learn about your mail and checking it more frequently?
Go check it. Go there and see grandma. I'm going to check that.
I think you'd make your grandma very happy, and I also think you would know whether or not you got some issues. All right. So based upon that, Mr. Brooks, I think he satisfied the court for failing to appear. If you would, please, sir, stand up, raise your right hand, and we'll have you sworn in.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God?
Yes.
All right. You can go and have a seat. Sir, has anyone promised you anything more than what we've talked about on the record today or threatened you in any way to get you to plead to this when you really do not want to?
No.
Are you right now under the influence of any medicine, drugs, or alcohol that's confusing you?
No.
If you enter this plea, you will not have a trial. You could have a trial by jury or judge, but there'll be no trial at all. Do you understand that?
Yep.
Mr. Halseal has given you some advice. You could have hired a lawyer or requested a court-appointed attorney for your case if you qualified. You will be waiving the right to remain silent, not have your silence used against you, the right to be presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, and the right to confront your accusers, call witnesses, and testify. Do you understand each of these rights?
Yeah.
Do you waive these rights to enter this plea?
Yeah.
Teresa, can you hear him okay?
Yes, I waive.
Okay.
Yes, I can.
How do you plead to an added count 2 of allowing an unlicensed person to drive because it was suspended? Guilty, not guilty, or stand mute? That's the reduced charge.
Hold on. Can you say it one time?
How do you plead to count 2? We're adding that. The offer the prosecutor gave you was allowing another person to drive a license suspended. How do you plead to that charge? Guilty, not guilty, or stand mute?
I don't know about that.
Okay. So you're currently charged with driving license suspended second offense.
Mm-hmm.
You can have a trial with that charge, but the prosecutor would just have to prove that you were driving and your license was suspended and that you've been suspended before. If you're found guilty, then you would lose your driver's license again. If you plead guilty to the reduced charge that Mr. Halseal said he would recommend you do that, you're still guilty of a crime.
I'm going to go ahead.
Okay, so let me ask you again. How do you plead to count 2, allowing a person with their driver's license suspended to drive? Do you plead guilty to that, not guilty, or stand mute?
Guilty.
On or about January 22nd, were you driving on East Freeland Road in Mount Haley Township, Midland County, Michigan?
Yes.
On that day, was your license suspended?
Yes.
Have I complied with the court rule and had an adequate factual basis, Mr. Brooks?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Halseal?
Yes, Your Honor.
Find that the plea has been made knowingly, understandingly, voluntarily, and accurately will enter records of the court as allowing a driving license suspended. Mr. Brooks, is there any restitution I need to be concerned about, or could I go right to sentencing in this case?
No restitution, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Halseal, anything you'd like to say on behalf of your client before I sentence him?
It appears that Mr. Jackson is here today, willing to accept responsibility on his plea, and it's asked that the court take that into consideration when setting the sentence. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Jackson, anything you wish to say on your own behalf? No? I can see you shaking your head no, but we have to have a verbal response.
No.
So you said you work. What do you do?
Well, I don't work right now. I'm in the process of getting the job. I just had an interview at next year today. So
Next year?
Yeah.
Have you ever worked there?
No, this will be my first year.
Where did you work before?
Before that, let me see. Annalene Hall down in Hall, Michigan.
Okay, what do you do?
That,
was it a shop?
It's like a production plant.
Production plant. Okay.
And after that, before that, I was working at Wolverine Human Services, like a juvenile center in down in Saginaw.
Okay.
Before that, Hemlock Semiconductor, that's another plant.
Okay. So what I'm trying to do is come up with some information that you and I can talk on something that would be more familiar with you. So let's say that you're at Hemlock Semiconductor, and you overslept about 10 minutes, and you get to work. Supervisor, a little bit frustrated, but probably has a talk with you and says you need to get to work on time. Agreed? What if you did it 10 times in a row? Should the supervisor change how they respond to you not showing up to work on time?
Yeah, fire him.
Yeah, he's got to up it each time, right? All right. So in this case, the last person that was here, you saw me sentence them to fines and costs, and I'm going to do that with you. But her number is going to be lower because this is your 10th time being involved in the criminal justice system, not just the first. So I'm going to sentence you to $75 crime victim rights fee, $50 state assessment fee. The fine could be as high as $500. I'm not doing that, but I am going to go $300. Court costs could be as high as $475. I'm not doing that. I'm going to do $175. You owe $600. You have 21 days to appeal the sentence, 14 days to request a court-appointed attorney. What I'd like you to do is go make a payment plan. Do you have enough money to pay that today, or do you need some time?
I can give y'all like $250 today.
All right. So if you do $250 today, that leaves $350. I'd let you pay the other over 10 months. That's $35 a month.
All right.
Think you could pay $35 a month?
And how soon would I get my license back?
Well, your license should be cleared because we're going to take care of that. So you have to pay a $45 fee. So can you pay $45 today?
Yeah.
You pay $45, whatever you pay. If you pay the $250, and Deb, reduce it down so it's still the same amount of money. So go take care of that today,
and then I set it up to where I can just take the payment off probably every week or however y'all want.
You can set your payment plan up today with some of my staff. I just have you go over to the criminal window, okay? All right. We'll be adjourned on your case. Thank you. Mr. Brooks, I think that's it for you, isn't it?
I believe so. Thank you, Judge.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. Now calling the case people state of Michigan, or excuse me, people of the city of Midland versus Vanta Brookins, file 210317 OT. Come on up here, please, sir. City attorney, please identify. Well, I think Mr. Branson's gone. Counsel, identify yourself for the record.
This is Stephen Halseal on behalf of Mr. Brookins for the limited purpose of his arraignment.
All right, Mr. Brookins, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
You probably can guess the questions that I'm going to be asking you. You were supposed to be here. We were going to let you be by Zoom on April 7th, but you didn't even do it by Zoom. So why didn't you come by Zoom on April 7th?
I called. She said, it was a lady. She said, y'all don't do the Zoom.
Well, we do.
I don't know if I called the wrong courthouse.
I was going to say, we do Zoom all the time.
Yeah, I don't know if I called the wrong courthouse or whatever.
Okay, and then we set you up with another date. Looks like you're living in Are you living in Grand Rapids now?
No, I stay in Saginaw, Michigan.
You're in Saginaw?
Yeah.
Then we set you up another date on May the 10th. And Looks like we had an issue there too. Let me just take a look. Did you call today to set up this time?
Yes.
Let's get your address correct so we know where we're sending things to. So let me see. We have you at 1334 Logan Lane.
1335.
1335 Logan Lane?
Yes.
Can we make the change to 1335 Logan Lane? Maybe your neighbors got the documents.
Okay.
That's a possibility. All right. Let's see. Can someone make, Teresa, could you make a telephone call to Mr. Branson and have him come back in? He did not know Mr. Brookins was here.
Your Honor, I'm talking to their office right now.
Great. Do we know the status of Mr. Brookins' license? The advantage of sitting through other people is that you get an idea of what could happen to your case. I think Mr. Branson had an offer before. If you had a valid license, he'd let you plead to the reduced charge. Do you have a valid driver's license right now?
No, but
How long do you think before you would?
I set an appointment
When?
for Wednesday. My mother set it for me.
Secretary of State's
Yes.
office? Okay. Let's just take a look and see where we're at. Okay. Have you done the driver's training then? You probably do that?
No, I didn't. I still had to go through getting my permit.
Okay. Mr. Branson, hang on. There we go. Mr. Branson, this was added on. The defendant apparently called Val and got added to the calendar today. So I apologize that we didn't let you know that.
Oh, that's all right. Thank you, Your Honor.
So it looks like Mr. Brookins has indicated that he's never had a license, but he and his mother have an appointment for him
She said she set an appointment for me.
for tomorrow,
No, for Wednesday.
for Wednesday of next week. If we set this over so that Mr. Brookins has an opportunity to get that taken care of, would the offer still potentially be in place?
Yes, Your Honor, it would. We would offer the allowing.
All right, Mr. Halsey, your advice for your client is what he should do today then?
I recommend that Mr. Brookins take advantage of that offer, get his license or his permit next Wednesday and be ready to provide that to the court and to Mr. Branson. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Just so you're aware, it looks like you would be restricted from July 1st of this year until September 20th this year.
He's gonna be restricted? Okay. So, sir, what I'm gonna do is just read you what the charge is. They charge you with driving when you didn't have a license. If you're convicted of that crime, it's up to 93 days in jail and or $500 in fines plus court costs, Secretary of State to take your license.
Okay.
Mr. Housefields' advice for you is to enter a not guilty plea today. Are you planning on following his advice?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna enter a not guilty plea. We're gonna set this over. Teresa, can we get a date after September the 28th? It's a long way out, I know. You might be muted.
One moment, Your Honor, I'm checking for a date.
So, Mr. Brookins, what happens is, even though you don't have a driver's license, you have a state ID, and so that number will probably be the same number as your driver's license. And when you get caught driving without it, Secretary of State punishes you, even though you don't have a driver's license yet. So if you got a driver's license, it's going to be, did you say suspended or restricted? It'll be restricted between July 1st and September 28th. That's why I'm putting it out past September 28th to make sure that you don't mess up between now and then.
Okay.
Your Honor, we could do September 30th at 8:10.
At 8:10? All right,
Yes.
September 30th at 8:10, you zoom in, provided, so we're going to give you that piece of paper before you leave. He's going to be with Magistrate Ladwig then at that point in time, correct?
Correct.
You get a Zoom ID that will be different than mine. So you'll be talking with Magistrate Ladwig. What I'd like you to do is keep the appointment your mom set up for you. Follow all the advice it takes to be able to get your permit and then get your license. And on September 30th, then you may be able to take advantage of the offer. Right now, you couldn't take advantage of the offer because you don't have a valid license. The other people who were here that pled to reduce charge, they all had their licenses back. You don't have your license back. I'm going to lift, does he have to pay $45? Do you have $45 you can pay
Yes.
today? All right, so if you pay that today, we'll give you the paperwork and then we'll lift the block that we have on it with the Secretary of State's office. Because if we
Okay.
didn't do that, you would still be blocked.
Okay.
So do what you want. Looks like somebody drove you here today.
Yeah.
Who brought you here?
I'm his girlfriend. She's outside though.
Okay, good. Don't get caught driving while license suspended because you'll blow everything.
Right.
All right, so let's follow up with that. We'll see you back on September 30th. Go over and pay before you leave, and then they'll give you a piece of paper with all the information you need.
Let's get him go. To who?
The criminal window. So if you could walk through that wall, you'd be there. I would walk
Okay.
around.
All right.
All right, we'll be adjourned. Anything further, Mr. Halcyon?
Nothing further.
Anything further, Mr. Branson?
Nothing, Your Honor. Thank you.
So go over to the criminal window and ask for they already know because we send stuff electronically. They'll give you the piece of paper telling you when to be back by Zoom and the address and how you dial in. And then you've got some homework to do. Go with your mom on Wednesday and make sure you're not driving in the interim.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Did you uplift the warrant?
Yeah, we lifted the warrant.
Thank you.
We're all set. Thank you.
Great. Thank
All
you,
right,
Your Honor.
Teresa.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Branson. Thank you, Mr. Halcyon.
Here you are.
That everybody?
Okay.
It is. Yeah, we didn't know about Mr. Brookins, or there were two that were added. We didn't know, but we do now.